Hey, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, the situation that we're all in right now, money is surely becoming an issue, if not a problem. And a lot of that is because certainly if you're, this may well be the UK and Australia now and the other first world countries, shall we say, but certainly in America, when I left after declaring myself bankrupt, losing house and everything else, work died, the real estate tanked, meaning that your house wasn't worth the money that you owed on it, and people generally had a standing debt on their credit card of about 10,000. Back then it was about 10,000. Now a lot of what I'm going to talk about now I've already talked about, but I talked about it back then in the light of no impending crisis such as we're in right now. Because who would have thought when we were talking back even 7 or 8 years ago about whether, well, a conversation piece would, I went today and had the flu shot. Have you had the flu shot? No, I haven't had the flu shot. Really? Aren't you afraid of getting the flu? No. By the way, since you've had the flu shot and have it every year, do you get the flu? Yes, I do actually, but of course I've had the shot, so it's not nearly so bad. Well, all of that talk used to happen back then. Now, of course, we have what they're calling a pandemic, and which means it's totally out of control. And now, even though it's being revealed day after day, we are having revealed more and more about what went on behind the scenes to orchestrate what is happening right now. But that's not the subject of the video. The subject of the video is being in debt. Now the thing is that when I came out to the Philippines, I really didn't know what I was going to do. I came out with about a couple of grand, give or take, okay? But I did have 2 small pensions, which I'm sure that anybody who's been with us for a little while is getting tired of hearing me say that I had 2 small pensions. But I had a pension from my time in the UK, which was very, very small, and I also had earned a pension, a payback from the US government as well, so I get those, both of those I get, and it's about enough for us to live very modestly on, right? So as long as the social security systems in both the US and the UK doesn't tank, then we'll be fine. So why would we be talking about debt? Well, when I came out, I'd already resolved after going bankrupt that I was never going to be in debt again, that I was going to live debt-free. So I don't take anything on finance. Now, I did break that rule when we first came out, in that we got a motorcycle because we were doing that terrible walk down to the main road, and then we were waiting sometimes for an hour before a jeepney came and picked us up, and it was a big hassle. So we decided that we would break my rule of not being in debt and get a motorcycle on a 6-month finance, which we did and which we paid dearly for. We didn't learn from that one, and we bought the Little Red on finance as well, and boy, we did learn on that one, because even though by that time we were doing quite well with our saving, and we were doing quite well with keeping our living costs down, we still were able to pay off the loan after 1 year. Now, it was to run for 3 years. Now, as soon as you start getting into debt and finance, you realize that you are swimming with the sharks, as that saying goes. And boy, we found out that we were. So it's not just education that keeps you out of debt. It's bitter experience is also a great teacher as well. So when we came to pay off the debt rather than keep it on, because we were deciding to get the big blue, which we had been saving for very, very hard. Now, we paid off the red, and we paid it off at exactly the same rate as if we had kept the debt on for another 2 years. Doesn't take much to work that out, but let's say that that if we kept the debt on, we would end up paying 200,000. Just for instance, that wasn't the truck, but let's say it was 200,000. By paying it off early, in America, you would be able to negotiate a payoff settlement, a settlement figure. So you'd be able to call up the finance company, and they would charge you interest on whatever was outstanding at the time that you paid off your debt. Now that's the way that they did it. So you had a settlement fee. In other words, you didn't pay a penalty for not keeping the loan going on, because they're not making money from you if you pay the debt off. They make money by having you pay interest at probably an exorbitant amount, and that you pay monthly. And they love it, and you keep paying, and you keep paying and paying, and guess what? Paying. So all of that you do. Now, there's a lot that people don't know, certainly a lot that I don't know, but for the little that I know that the whole thing of being in debt is a game that you cannot win. People say, well, I have, and this is true, I have a credit card, and I'll always pay off the credit card fully, so I don't pay any interest. Well, they are in the minority, and of course they have wings, because they must be absolute angels. Now, what most people do is when they take out a credit card, they take it for a test flight, don't they? And actually it should be a test fright, not a test flight. But they take it and they buy some stuff probably that they don't need, but they use the credit card, and then they wait for what's called a statement. In other words, they don't send you a bill, they send you a statement. And in that is a little lesson which is almost indecipherable on the glories of interest. And interest is what you pay for the privilege of holding some of their money. Now, everybody makes out, except you, if you keep the debt on. So what will happen is they'll say, just supposing, I'm not going to try to give you accurate figures here, only if only and if this were the case. Alright, let's say that you spent $50 and your minimum payment came in, and the minimum payment, in order to be able to keep the card going and be in good standing, was $10. Now $10, you would be paying an absolute fraction of that $10 would be going to paying off your loan of $50. And then the next month, if you didn't buy anything else, they'd send you another minimum payment, probably for $10 again, and once again you would be paying off a tiny little amount of your loan. what you're paying is interest. Now, in the States, they have it all tied up. They have credit cards are registered with the different credit companies who will register what you, so they know everything about what you have earned, have made, have used the card for, and the payments that you have made, and the interest that you're being charged. They know all of that, and they know whether you're being good about your payments. Now, here's the thing: is that there is a phrase for it, which for the life of me I can't remember right now. But if you are late on a payment, everybody gets to know about it. So you think, well, I was late on one payment. It's just one payment, and I paid it. I mean, I was supposed to pay it on the 29th of the month, and I didn't get to pay it because I was busy at work, and I had to go to this, and then I had that, and I thought, blah, 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 blah. I didn't pay it until the 5th. Late. You were late. You didn't pay your debt. You were late. Now, that will be found out by the people that have other accounts. If you're late on your electricity bill, you think it doesn't really matter because you're going to have your electricity connected anyway. But if you do that, it goes against you. It's a bad mark against you, you naughty boy. And the credit card company finds out about that, and they can increase the interest which you are paying. And that interest can sometimes rise to as much as 26, 27, 28%. That means every dollar that you pay, and as bad as I am at arithmetic, math, it means that 28 cents is taken off the dollar straight away. So your dollar, your 100-cent dollar, is only worth minus whatever the interest was on that. So you're paying there. Now, the biggest lesson I had, and I told this story before, the biggest lesson, and the lesson for what I'm trying to share with you as my experience, is to stay out of debt, and I'll try to give you some good reasons why. A young lady that I was sitting next to, I think at the dentist or some place that we were both receiving some kind, it could have been the optician, I don't know. I think it was the dentist, and she is talking, and she looks outside the door. She can see from the waiting room, she can see a truck. She said, "Is that your truck? Sir, is that your truck?" I said, "Yes, it is. Why?" She said, "Well, you're not allowed to park there." So I said, "I'm only going to be a minute." I said the old excuse, "Oh, I'm only going to be a minute." I was only a few minutes, even though you were an hour, whatever. She said, "What's just happened to me? I wouldn't want it to happen to you. I lost my car. I parked my car like you have. It was only there for a few minutes. When I came out, they towed it. And they towed it away, and I believe this is how it went. They towed it away on Thursday. She did not have the money to go and get it straight away, so she had to pay storage until the next day. That's a fee. This is what the credit card companies are good at. It was a fee. So she went the next day to get her car, but she's working, and she had to wait until she was paid. She was paid, and she went down, and all that she was going to do was pay for 1 day's storage or 1 night's storage, which can be quite heavy, around a $60 or $70 or $80 or even more now, for all I know. And she's going to pay that. Of course, she has to pay the ticket as well, which was, at the time, which was something like $36. So $36 the storage for the car to stay there, plus you have to pay, I believe now, for the tow. So they don't tow you away for nothing. You think that that was free? Not likely. So she had those three things. So we're already up in the $200-300, right? So she gets there too late to get her car. Now they're not, on that particular weekend, they're not open. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, she can't get there on Monday because she's working. She manages to get there on Monday evening. By now, she has 3 or 4 days storage to pay. The towing fee and the parking fine. She simply couldn't, she didn't have the money. So she can't get her car, which goes into another day. So now, let's say it was accruing at the rate of, let's make the math easy for my my befogged ancient brain, and say that it was $100 a day. So whereas it was $400, now it's $500. And she's looking around, can she borrow the money? $600. And then it can't. And someone promises her the money, $700. And then by the time, it just isn't worth trying to get the car. So the car is sold off at the auctions. Now, what's the lesson? Well, the lesson is learned very well with the credit card company. Because if your credit limit is, say, 100, let's say it's $100, which would be ridiculous now. It would be $1,000 or $10,000 or $5,000. Let's make the math easy for old me. So you miss getting to the bank in order to make the absolute on-time payment, or however you pay it. You could pay it at Walmart. You go there and you can pay that bill there. You get there late and you are at $95. Okay, your limit is $100. You're at $95 and you're supposed to go there and pay your minimum payment of $15, and you don't get there. So now your $95 has an over the limit fee, and possibly a late fee as well. But it goes now, well, as soon as you have a late payment fee of, let's say it was only $10, you're now $105 on something that should only be $100. Now, you've still got to make your minimum payment, you've still got to make the fee of being late and the fee of being over the limit. Now, do you think that the bank is mad at you for this? No, 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 they love you. They love you if you are bleeding by the side of the road. That's paying your fees. That's what they love. They're in business. So, what's the lesson to be learned? The lesson is what probably your mom and dad told you, or your grandparents told you, depending how old you are. Don't buy anything that you cannot afford. Now, at one time, something like $15 or maybe $19.95 was the impulse buy. That was the price at which someone would buy something, even if they didn't really want it, or didn't really know whether it was going to be any good. Well, if it's no good, it's only $20, I don't mind. So now it's about 29, or certainly was a little while ago, probably gone up even more now. It went up to $29.95. Now, all the ads that I see on YouTube, on Facebook, they all ask for the same amount. And right now, because I'm in the Philippines, it's always 1,995. And that apparently is the new impulse buy. So, here's the lesson. When we started out and we learned our lesson with the red truck, we saved very, very hard all of our money. We lived very modestly. So here's the saying is, if you get a pay rise, continue to live at the level before the pay rise. Do not think of the pay rise as money. Put it in the bank. Now there's a load of books that I could quote that help you to stay out of debt. The one that I would say off the top of my head, and I read it a long time ago, is The Richest Man in Babylon. And he was the one that said, your money is yours right at the very start, and you should pay yourself first, and then you pay your debts. Now, you should actually put away 20% of whatever you earn. Now, Beth and I, if we have a secret at all for how well we have done, and we have worked very, very hard together, right? We started off broke, but with my pensions and a little bit of money, enough to be able to come to Bohol. And that's what we started off. Now, we ate modestly. We didn't live above our means. We ate noodles and rice, and we lived modest. The saying is, when your pay rise comes through, don't consider it money. Put it away in the bank. Continue to live bread and butter, not caviar. So if you're making, the formula would be to make caviar money. Caviar being the most ridiculously expensive food that you can have, that is just done to suit the eyes and the mouth, the palate. You live bread and butter, but you earn caviar money. Now, when it goes the other way around is when you're in trouble. Now, where does that bring us to right now, so that I don't go agonizingly on? I'm looking at the clock, 22 minutes. Right now, we must all be learning the lesson of why you should not be in debt. Someone posted, and I think it's realistic, saying on Facebook, well, the car dealerships are going to be having a lot of returns right now, because people who could afford to make the payments are not going to be able to now, because they're sitting on their bums in home. Now, because we had learned a very, very sharp lesson with both the motorcycle and paying for the red truck, we made up our minds that everything else we would pay for in cash. So when we wanted a vehicle, we saved. Now, when we first went onto Facebook, and this was also a lesson too, which reinforced the idea that we should not be in debt, we needed a PIN number in order to be paid. And it's one of those computer glitches that I'm sure that everybody that's watching this has had, where they're asking you for something that you can't give because you don't have it, and that's the reason that you're actually contacting them. It says contact us, and you want to go and say, as we did, we don't have a PIN number. And there in the questionnaire about your first name, your second name, where you live, what your email is, and what your PIN number is. Well, there's nowhere that you can say we don't have a PIN number because we haven't got one yet. And this went on for quite a few months. And during that time, we created on our YouTube channel and loved it and enjoyed it and never actually thought about the money. Mainly because we didn't need to, because we were able to live modestly on what we had coming in. Now, when it finally did come in, it seemed to us to be, because it came out of the blue after 3 or 4 months, where we actually became quite successful, modestly successful, in a very, very short time. So after 3 or 4 months, it represented quite a bit of money to us. Now, we never spent it. We never went out and bought clothes. We never had meals out. We never went to the equivalent, wherever it is, of Disneyland, or we never did that. It wasn't money. We put it away. We saved it. And then thereafter, we never considered the money that we got as money. We saved it. And believe me, the money, it actually starts to accumulate very fast when you don't think about it anymore. And that's what we did. When it came to buying the blue truck, we paid for it cash. We were able to do a fair deal. We paid for it cash, so we never paid any interest on it. And then when it came to we were so tired of the red breaking down and the blue breaking down, and every vehicle that we had just seemed to spend most of its time costing us money. And we went, if you look back at the old videos, all of this is on video of course, but we went back, if you go back and look at the videos and look at the comments, you will see people saying, for heaven's sake, why don't you get a new vehicle? Well, finally, we had so many breakdowns, we were just weary, so we went out and we bought a new vehicle. Now, that vehicle cost us everything that we had saved. Everything. In fact, I had to pledge my US pension to going towards paying for what the Raptor had cost us for, I think, 3 months. So I went totally without any money for 3 months, and all of that was put to the cost of the truck. Now, let's fast forward, and as you may have noticed, I'm not sure that you have, I won't assume that you have, we have a pandemic and nobody's earning any money. Now, if you've got a pension, yes, you've got a pension coming in, but if you are depending on a livelihood, which most people who are earning a living are depending on earning that living to pay their debts. That evil word again. Now, there was no threat, no pandemic when we bought our Raptor. And it would have been very tempting to buy it on finance, but we didn't. We got there, we went first of all to Toyota, and we were going to buy a Toyota Hilux, and we stood there. They must have seen us come. We rolled up in a tricycle taxi, and then we got out, and I guess we looked like the poor relatives. And when we stood there, nobody came and said, "Can I help you?" So after a little while, we said, "Okay, let's walk down the road and go to Ford's." And our Ford was different. They treated us very nicely. They sat us down, got us a cup of coffee, and said, "Can you wait for a few minutes and we'll be with you?" "Yes, we can, thank you. Here's your coffee. Is there anything else?" Even with biscuits, they took care of us. Meanwhile, we sat in the Raptor, and that kind of sealed our fate. We resisted it right then, but a few months or a few weeks later, we had another breakdown, and we were right up to here with the breakdowns, paying out, having to walk, take it down to the mechanic. And we said, let's go and look at a truck. And we went and we paid for it cash. Now, are we bragging about this? No, because it's the end of an important lesson for us. When the pandemic hit, when everybody else was, or certainly many other people who had engaged debt, credit cards, so seductive, credit cards and all of that, they're having their stuff repossessed. Well, when we drove home in our Raptor, which had cost us everything, I said, well, the thing is, Beth, that whatever happens, no one can come and take this away from us, because it's paid for. And we always felt very good about that, and we felt very good about it since. So what I'm suggesting to you is live on what you can, which I know is very difficult at the moment. Don't go into debt. If you've got a credit card, take a pair of scissors to it and cut it up, and then tell them to close the account, and you'll pay it off as and when you can. But don't buy things on credit.
Yeah.
That's all from me. Beth has just invaded the place, so I'm going to give up. And oh my God, it's 30 minutes. Probably nobody's watching anyway. This is A Foreigner in the Philippines. Bye for now.